5:30 on my computer. Good evening. I'm going to call the evening's meeting of the Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal Agency Board to order. Crystal, would you please call the roll?
Dan Richardson,
Present.
Ben Ring,
Present.
Kristen Lovick,
Present.
McLaughlin,
Present.
Scott Higgy, Marcus Swift,
Here.
Walter Dinstead, Bill Amory. Here. That's Seltzer. Here.
Very good. Thank you. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Ring, would you lead us, please?
Please stand if you can.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item of business is the approval of the agenda. It is a full agenda, and we will do our best to move forward with a combination of thoughtfulness and alacrity. Are there any amendments or changes proposed for the agenda? And if not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Was there a second to be had?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, approval of agenda passes. We'll move forward with the approval of the minutes from the January 2nd Urban Renewal meeting. Pause for effect here. Are there any comments or edits that people wish to make prior to approving and adopting the minutes? If not, the sooner we make motions and seconds, the quicker we get through our agenda. Can I have?
I would move to approve the minutes from the January meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Me also wasn't here, so.
Thank you very much. We have 3 abstentions and looks like 6 in favor. Motion passes. The next item 6A, presentation on the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year Program. I believe Mr. Anderson's bringing the presentation.
If the chair wouldn't mind, we're gonna switch it up. We are still waiting for someone. Oh, is she just online? Never mind. She's joining right now.
Very good. Are you ready or should we swap to somebody else?
Nope, we can start.
Take it away.
As was discussed, Chair, at our last meeting, we have a couple of opportunities this year that we're really excited about, and both of them involve college students. You'll be hearing a little bit later about the Lewis and Clark internship program, and what you have before you right now, you'll be hearing about the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year Program, and you have before you our Community Development Director, Joshua Chandler, and previous agency manager to give you an overview, along with Megan Banks from the University of Oregon, to talk about this program and the exciting things that we have coming this year.
Good evening, Chair Richardson, members of the board, Joshua Chandler, Community Development Director. As Jake mentioned, we're joined this evening by Megan Banks, who's the director of the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year program, as well as Ann Moorhead. Ann Moorhead is the city's community development analyst. Many of you might remember Ann from her time as a RARE member from 2023 to 24. During that time, she supported a couple projects with the agency, including the Light Capsule Project on the Getchell building, did some work with the surveys for the Tony's building, as well as helped establish the new revamp to the city's municipal Wi-Fi system. So tonight we're going to be discussing, as Jake mentioned, the Sustainable City Year program and a potential partnership that we're looking into. And with that, I will turn it over to Megan. We'll kind of be swapping back and forth with our presentation, but Megan's going to take it away from here.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Good evening, board members. I'm Megan Banks. I direct the Sustainable City Year program at the University of Oregon. Thank you for having me. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program. And as Josh said, we'll go back and forth with the information we're sharing. So, Josh, do we have the PowerPoint loaded for everyone to see?
Yeah, we do. 1 second here.
Okay, thanks.
Can you see that on your end, Megan?
I don't see it on my end, but if you can all see it, that's no problem.
Share that.
That works, Josh.
Yay, perfect. All right, should I go ahead and dive in?
Yeah.
All right, great. What is the Sustainable City Year program? So next slide, please. We won't keep the mystery lingering too long. We know that today the world needs research and ideas and solutions. Leveraging the role of universities for the benefit of society is critically important. And local government is where everything happens. And because everything happens with local government, it's really hard to get everything done that needs to be done. It can be hard even to find out or find the time to seek out best practices or new ideas. And it might be hard to find the political space to explore innovation or different ways of doing things. Conversely, universities, one of the reasons for their existence is to explore and figure out new ways of doing things. Through SUIP, excuse me, and our year-long partnerships, we help communities solve today's problems while laying the groundwork for a sustainable future. And at the same time, we're also helping students prepare for the workforce because they are going through and applying what they're learning to real projects. So how do we do this? Through cities identifying projects and students in their existing classes completing those projects. So next slide.
And then Megan, I'm going to interrupt you just really quick. Crystal, I think, can we minimize the videos on the side? Yeah, there you go. All right. Keep going, Megan. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're on a roll. So as a quick overview, SUIP since 2024 or up through 2024 has completed over 300 community projects. We've worked with 14 communities across Oregon for entire academic years. And we've also worked in urban locations, rural locations, and we have also completed special projects. We refer to them as special projects. They're anything that is not a year-long partnership. Next slide, please. So we have worked statewide, whether that's Southern Oregon, Northeast Oregon, the Willamette Valley, Central Oregon. So we are getting throughout the state, we're providing a mechanism to get knowledge into practice and help universities improve the quality of life for all Oregonians. And you can see kind of through those dots there where we have partnered. We can keep rolling. So what happens in a year with SCYP? And just at a high level, it depends on the partner and what they would like done and how much they would like done. But because we are taking existing classes taught in their existing ways, they already exist. So this makes it easy for us to work with a variety of students, faculty, courses, and a multitude of disciplines. And we can keep going. So here's an example. We've worked with over 115 unique disciplines in 5 of our 7 colleges across campus. Next. So here are some examples of the disciplines that cities have worked with, everything from architecture to public relations. We also have worked with other public universities, whether that's Eastern Oregon, Oregon State, Portland State, because it's important to us, not that we are the only university working on these projects, but it's important to us that we're bringing the public back into public university. We can keep going. So what we do in terms, or what do we ask of a city in terms of commitment, in terms of time, because we know that you are extremely busy with a lot on your plate. And it varies by what role the city staff person is playing. Our primary contact is a city liaison, someone like Josh, and they might, as the primary person, put in 5 to 10 hours a week. And that depends on where we are during the term. Lots of times it's front loaded, and then there's a backloading towards the end of the term. And again, it all depends on how many projects that the city is working on. We strongly encourage community and elected officials whenever they can to attend events and presentations throughout the year. Students are extremely excited to be in your community and working on these projects. And they definitely want your feedback and your input because you are the experts in your city, about your city. We also have usually individual partner leads. These are the technical experts that know the most about the particular project that the students are engaging with. So that person may spend 2 to 4 hours a week. They might be talking to students, might be a check-in with them, whether that's every other week. It could be that the students are coming for a visit and they're interacting with the students and sharing their knowledge. They could be listening and giving feedback during midterm reviews or final reviews. Next slide, please. So this is very high level, and we're definitely available to give you more detail as needed. But in summary, SCYP, we want to provide capacity for cities to accomplish more than they otherwise could. We know you have a lot of needs going on. We also want our students to bring creativity, energy, enthusiasm, and new ideas to a city's real life issues. On a broader level, we're thinking about how we can help society meet its pressing challenges and its evolving needs. On the academic side, we want SCYP to be a transformational model for higher education, because we know that experiential learning motivates students more, and that way they can learn more. And we're also excited to have the students build relationships with different cities across Oregon. And lastly, finally, we bring workforce development to campus. Students are working on and helping solve actual problems that cities are dealing with. And you might employ one of these one day. Oh, next slide. So city staff has focused on 5 overarching themes listed here. And I'll just share a couple examples of projects we've completed that are related to these themes. So, assuming everyone knows and has read those, we can move forward. I'll go ahead and start with economic development. the city of Tualatin adopted a core opportunity reinvestment area plan. Well, this is their almost 500-acre urban renewal district aimed at encouraging investment, redevelopment, and tourism through a more cohesive and vibrant district. So this past term, a group of 5 students, through work that they had done, developed an actionable research-based strategy to increase downtown visitation, strengthen business vitality, and clarify Tualatin's downtown identity. They reviewed plans and policies. They conducted interviews with more than 100 regional professionals, and they completed a comparative analysis of 9 peer cities identified by Tualatin staff. So this I wanted to share as an example of some of the capacity that students can bring. So what they realized through this research, among other things, they identified consistent patterns that were evident among successful downtowns, including clear marketing, reoccurring and well-programmed events, and strong alignment between downtown businesses and community identity. So among other deliverables, the students developed one-pagers that the downtown businesses could share and that highlighted what downtown Tualatin offered. They also created, through AI, a pretend or representative family. And this is who they would want to target day trip visitors to downtown Tualatin. Next slide, please. Focusing on tourism and Main Street, we had marketing students in the city of Oak Ridge. They focused on how to increase tourism and promote the downtown's outdoor assets and elevate the city's long-term economic vitality. So their research combined qualitative and quantitative methods, including benchmark analyses of comparable towns, focus groups, 50 individual interviews, and secret shopping visits. Students also conducted a survey that yielded over 500 responses, and they created 6 distinct consumer profiles that informed targeted action plans that were designed to appeal to each audience through low-cost, practical marketing tactics. So beyond these segment-specific strategies, there were broader recommendations the students proposed to enhance Oak Ridge's overall marketing capabilities, including a refreshed branding identity with logos, taglines, design guidelines, an influencer brand identity with to elevate Oak Ridge's digital presence, and a community coupon book initiative intended to drive local business traffic. And you can see on the slide, the top logo in blue is their existing one, and the lower one is the one the students proposed. And I would contend that that is much cleaner and contemporary. All right, next slide, please. So transportation. So we know that communities are trying to figure out how to increase transportation choices to more people with diverse needs and even commutes. Leveraging existing investments, in this case, streets, and rethinking and repurposing these streets can lead to a variety of improvements around the city. It can also lead to improved health, economic development, and other community gains. So in the city of Redmond, the students made recommendations for family-friendly cycling infrastructure, as well as broader thoughts related to the existing transportation system plan that was being updated. And so many of those student recommendations are actually incorporated into the update. For example, the sign you see here was a proposal by students to turn Deschutes Avenue into a quiet street. And that was implemented, and that's an actual sign from Deschutes Avenue. All right, Josh, I'll turn it over to you for the next slide.
All right, thank you, Megan. So in working with Megan and Anne, probably since around Thanksgiving, as well as Jake, we have pulled together a work plan that we've then shared with the team, with Megan's team. This has everything to do with those 5 categories that we talked about. And overall, what we're looking at there is a work plan of about 15 different projects. The average cost really comes out to about 13,000. So that's the number that we've used to kind of average these costs out or calculate, estimate different things. So the estimated project total program cost here is about 195,000 for those 15 projects. The partner revenue sources here would be the city of the Dalles. We're actually going to be at the city council meeting next Monday, presenting the same discussion, having the same discussion here. The Urban Renewal Agency, as well as staff, is leveraging some funds through the State Historic Preservation Office. There's about applying for 2 separate grants there, upwards of about $24,000, so trying to offset some of those costs. I did provide in here off of their University of Oregon's website. These costs do range. Megan will get into it in the next slide here, but it's about 5 to 25,000. You know, these projects aren't created equal. It's not just like it's all going to depend on travel time, the amount of maybe digitizing of various things that need to happen. So not all the proposed projects that are in that work plan will be matched or completed, but their team right now is very confident that, you know, most of the projects will be completed through all of this. You know, so this is a little bit, we're having this conversation with you. This is a little bit different than how local government works. There were University of Oregon, this process is looking basically for a commitment. I'll get into that a little bit more in a couple slides, but it's a commitment before the budgeting process. So it's a little bit different. So that's why once University of Oregon has had that conversation with us, they know that the community has committed to this. Then they start working further and further with the professors, with the faculty to iron out the work plan and really start scoping things out. So with that, Megan will touch on these next slides. She'll touch on some of the different aspects of what can influence the cost of a project. Slide.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Cost per class, as Josh mentioned, completely varies. It might have things that weigh into the cost include the number of students that are enrolled in that particular class, the credit hours that are required for the students to be taking. Typically, that might be 3 credits, could be upwards of 8 credits. And again, the higher the credit number, the more hours that are being put into the project. Could be the length of the course, whether it's 1 term or we're on the quarter system, so that's 10 weeks plus finals week. Some classes are 2-term capstones, which means that they take place over 2 terms. It might depend on the project scope and complexity that's necessary to accomplish the project, as well as some of those direct costs that are related to materials to actually accomplish the class, travel, or research. Sometimes we have to bring in outside, whether it's software or something that we can't accomplish on campus. And I'm not doing a great job describing that, but we have had to bring in particular software to accomplish classes in the past. The interesting thing from our perspective is there are economies of scale, so that the more projects we're doing, some of those fixed costs are reduced. And you can go ahead, next slide, please. So Josh did a nice job introducing this and basically described it where once we have detailed project descriptions from the city, which we have, and the partnership is moving forward, it's committed to be moving forward. We share these project descriptions with faculty, and the next step, if they're interested, is to get faculty and city staff, have a conversation, discuss the specifics of what the city is looking for, discuss what the students are capable of, the learning objectives of the class. And so it's actually a really fabulous conversation that happens because everyone starts to align expectations and outcomes. And then we hopefully have a match for that particular class and that particular project. And then we develop a scope of work for that particular class. We call it a memorandum of collaboration. But basically it narrates expectations, roles, and responsibilities. And we want to be sure that everybody is on the same page before the class starts. So we continue to do this process all year long. So we're doing it fall, winter, spring, maybe even summer term. I think that's it for that particular side, unless you want to add anything, Josh.
No, I think that's good. Yeah, if you want to advance the slide, Crystal. So the conversation this evening, tonight, we are looking for feedback on consideration from the Urban Renewal Agency of commitment up to $65,000 for this program. The reason for the 65, as I mentioned, it's 195, but we'll be going to City Council, but we'll also be leveraging some costs with or some funds through some SHPO grants. So if that is a commitment from the agency, staff will be building these into our budgets, presenting those at budget considerations here in about, the next few weeks. And then if supported, we would pursue the partnership beginning fall of 2026. As I mentioned, it's a little bit different than how typical budgeting and local government works. Megan and I have had a ton of conversations over the past few months on this. I've talked to some other cities. City of Salem had nothing but great things to say about the program. I think they did upwards of 30 projects up, $350,000 worth. Nothing but good things to say from them. So I think they mentioned probably the interesting aspect is just making that commitment and then going into the budgeting process. So at this point, I said we're just looking for some support from the agency, and as if this is something that you would like to see moving forward in that budgeting process. Next slide, we just have kind of a closer here. I think it's in your packet. I won't sum it up, but it kind of sums up the conversation I had with the city of Salem. There's a lot of, I think this program has a lot of great value. These aren't new projects that we're throwing out there. These aren't just things that, this would be a fun program. These are all things built into the work that we already have going. They play directly into the housing production strategy. They play into the historic landmarks, annual goals, builds into, now we have an active economic development department, economic development officer. Now we can start moving some of those initiatives of the economic development portion of the city forward. So it's really, feel like it's an opportune time to take this on, as well. We're looking into that partnership with SHPO. We've discussed it with SHPO. These funds, they were very clear with us. These funds can be used to leverage, the grant funds can be used to leverage and pay for this program as well. So with that, we are more than happy to answer any questions.
Board members, do you have comments or questions for this proposal?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
What sort of projects, examples do you have that were provided for this?
Yeah. So it's mentioned there's about 15. I went through and I gave it kind of my first pass of what I know about the Urban Renewal Agency, what I thought could fit. And really, so we only really tried to hone in on those that are actually in the district. We're not going to ask you to pay for anything outside. That wouldn't make sense. But, a downtown revitalization concepts and facade design study was one of those. A downtown market analysis and retail mix strategy. That was another project. Business retention and expansion program, which is something that we've been talking about at the city for a while, as well as a partnership with Main Street. Some of these also play into, it was unfortunate. We were moving forward with another rare placement, but the federal government shut the program down this last year. So we had a baked in great work plan for rare. We felt very confident about it. So a lot of the stuff that was in the work plan already for rare has moved into this one as well. So it's kind of given us that opportunity. Like I said, they're not new projects. These are things that have really kind of been hanging around. The other is, assisting with some of the historic side of things, be a partnership with the agency as well as the city, updating our historic ordinance and design standards. I know that, there's a lot of, our district is very historic as it is. Also working on the Rock Fort site, trying to activate that. That is, I'll admit, right across the street from the district, but I think we can make a good argument. and as well as working with Main Street, an action plan for Main Street. So these are all just like high level at this point. I think we did a pretty good job at laying out a good work plan right now. But as Megan mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, it's still going to be, once that match actually happens, then it's going to be us refining these work plans even further.
Scott.
I have a microphone. Oh, all right.
A couple questions. The first one would be like exactly what's paid for what? Like I'm assuming, are the students paid? Is it just for travel? Is it for materials? What are the costs related to?
Yeah, and Crystal, if you want to quit sharing the screen really quick, and Megan can pop up, I can touch on it a little bit. It's going to be for a lot of the different, travel is one of them. Students will not be getting paid. It's the program itself. This program is, relies on these funds. The program would not live if it weren't for this partnership. So really kind of what it goes into it. If there's more on site, if there's more site analysis, obviously, we're a little bit, 3 hours outside of Eugene, so it's paying for students to come out. So the costs that really go into actually producing the work is where a lot of it goes to. Megan, unless I missed anything.
Okay. Because when you mention rare, I was thinking of the cost of a rare student versus, we're looking at almost 200,000, significantly more expensive than the cost of a rare student. And I'm trying to figure out like the relationship to urban renewal versus the city. I mean, it's quite a bit of money to spend on a program that, has some relationship to urban renewal, but to do that, we're going to be taking those funds away from other projects that we'd be doing. And they seem like more like city general projects, maybe than urban renewal specific, but maybe if you can tell me what is urban renewal specific and what would make more sense versus just general, because it sounded like a lot of the projects you mentioned were kind of general economic development projects for the city.
Yeah, I think, Jake can assist me on this some. When we were breaking out these costs, I know these are some that I just flagged as potentially could be funded. I went through the list and I was kind of matching it with, our urban renewal goals. And I think that some of these can play into those urban renewal goals. But I think just really focusing on, the downtown, the downtown focus of the market analysis, business retention program. I think those two jump out to me the most, as well as, some of the historic aspects. I know those, one of the goals of the Urban Renewal Agency is, to continue to, we want to see the reuse of our historic buildings or historic properties. Jake, you want to add else to it?
Yeah, what I think we can add is at our conversations this last month, we were asking for what are the other things that the Urban Renewal Agency wants to see done by the time that the agency expires. And you see in your board packet, there's 3 pages of responses just from 3 members of the board of possibilities. When we were looking at this for these students, what it really was is Joshua was able to get some quotes on if we asked a consultant to come in and do some of this work, which we've asked consultants to do a lot of work for the agency in the past. And we're talking about pennies on the dollar. And so Josh just talked about some of the ones, that's 65,000 out of the possible 200. And that's just an estimate. As those get refined down, we'll find out a little bit more, as well as when we talk about our next 2 interns. I think those 2 interns are going to help us be able to further refine and further set the projects that really do pop for the Urban Renewal Agency, that the Urban Renewal Agency can choose whether to invest in or not. Right now, what we're talking about is we've got multiple millions of dollars to spend, and we want to make downtown as best as we possibly can. And does the board feel that this is a good enough investment at this time to put it into the budget for next year? And if you do think that that's a valid use of a small amount of money, urban renewal dollar money, I want to hear all your concerns as well as all your ideas about well, what about this? This would be a great use because when you think about putting 30 minds together on top of staff, you can do a lot for a community. And I've spent some time going through the other projects that these students have done in other cities, and when you think about economic development for a city or a county, I'm one person. There's only so many hours in a day, and I'm spread a lot of different ways. When you think about these projects where you can put 30 individuals and 30 minds on it, you can solve a lot of projects. You can do a lot of things. And when you start mixing and matching classes where you've got, business students working with communication students, it's pretty cool what these students can do.
I'm going to follow up question to that. Jacob, Josh, would Urban Renewal board members have a chance to sort of look at potential spread of projects at some point and either get to think about it or give some amount of thumbs up, thumbs down? Do you feel like that would be potential for the workflow? I know the workflow here is a little backwards in that we commit to dollars and then we come and say, how do we want to spend them, or what projects do we want investigated, where we do agree to that. But would that be something, if the board really felt they desired that they would get an opportunity to provide some amount of feedback to project list?
You'll probably hear me talking about a workshop in the next month. And I think that's going to be a great time when we talk about these 3 pages that are in front of you in terms of ideas, and then in terms of using that to hone in. When you look at the ideas on some of these pages, they directly align with some of the projects that Josh is talking about right now.
So yes. All right. Other questions from the board about this proposal or this ask?
Yes, sir.
Please.
So I love these kind of partnerships. I think they can accomplish great things. I would love the workshop first. We have a lot of pages of ideas. I took a step back and looked at, what does our plan say? What does ORS say? What are we supposed to be doing with urban renewal dollars? And I want to make sure that that's what we're committing to. So I know it would be hard for me to commit to the idea of projects without really knowing that they would fit within the definition and with the plan scope.
Other thoughts, please?
I feel similarly. And I also wonder if we've maybe not exhausted our resources locally. We do have a community college right up the hill, and I wonder if maybe some of those students would benefit from this opportunity too.
Other board thoughts or comments? Please, Commissioner Hagee.
Sorry. Jake, you said something. You mentioned the 2 interns. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
You're going to find out very shortly.
Okay, so but part of what I was thinking, part of when you said that, part I was thinking about, $200,000, and I don't know how long these projects are going to take, but $200,000 is, 2 FTE for a year. So 2 full-time staff for a year, basically, depending on what level they're at. So that's what I'm trying to get a sense of.
I think the 200,000 is for the full project. That includes a whole bunch of city projects. The urban renewal portion that would likely affect just urban renewal would be up to 65,000.
Okay, yeah, but is it for like a year period or is it for multiple years? The $200,000?
Yeah, so it could be spread between 2 years effectively. As Jake mentioned, we did receive, some kind of ballpark estimates. We do have a land use consultant on call. We provided this work plan to them, and I want to be very clear. It's consultant work, and this work, it's apples to oranges. It's total different package when you're getting a consultant, but the numbers, as Jake kind of mentioned too, I mean, the numbers were for one of these projects triple the amount of that 13. So, it's how I've kind of looked at this and approaching it. I mean, the reason that this program came to be is working with Ann. We are trying to accomplish the work of our housing production strategy. And I think the easy part was adopting the housing production strategy. The hard part's implementing it. 8 years is going to be 8 years of some really hard work. And one of those tasks, what this all came from is one of the tasks was working on pre-approved building plans. And that's where it all kind of started. So we started reaching out, see what the opportunities could be. Anne is a UO alum, so she kind of checked in down there. connected her with Megan, and it kind of like blossomed in this conversation that we're having. And with it, it's just I see this opportunity, at least on our end, to spread the work out, spread the money out. Ultimately, what it comes down to, my department, Anne, is going to be the one that oversees this. We have someone, basically, we'll have a part-time project manager on staff who's going to oversee all of this. But when I look at just the amount of being a little selfish with all this, when I look at the amount of staff time, the amount of work that's going to go into all the work plans, all the work that we have to do, all the council goals that we're going to be discussing coming up, it's a lot of work to do, and this just helps kind of spread that work out. So that's how we kind of approach this and looked at this opportunity. It's not sustainable all the time to just hire full-time employees, everything that goes into the package, compared to the opportunity to take chunks out of different projects that we already have in place. For instance, I mentioned this is going to move forward the housing production strategy work. It's also some of the transportation work in here is going to benefit the TGM grant that the city recently received for the West Side study that we have. So all of it is kind of interconnected, is how I've kind of been looking at it. It's kind of a puzzle going all together. And of course, piece of the puzzle is coming and getting the support from both boards.
You've heard a couple of board members suggest they would really want to see a more specific project list that they could chew on prior to making a commitment. Does that timing work, or are we in a place where we need to say a yes or no tonight?
I can coordinate with Megan after the fact, unless she can speak on the spot. I mean, a typical commitment is in the month of March.
Yeah.
For this program. And it still has to go through a budget committee. I mean, you do have the authority at the end of the day to move this, forward, but there is a budget committee that plays into all of this. Maybe the budget committee is only, so on the idea as well. So fully understand that.
Please, Councilor Ray.
So yeah, so on the timing and everything, my going in assumption is that, we're getting a presentation tonight. It sounds great, and we'll make a decision as we go through like the budget cycle and whatnot through April and May, and that's when we would make a final decision, is that's my takeaway tonight. Anyways, is that accurate?
Yeah, so I mean, the commitment happens, as I said, it's a little bit, it's different than the budget process. I mean, the commitment is made, and basically what it is University of Oregon, we're kind of making, we don't have an agreement with them in place, and they will go with the community that has the funds available and makes the commitment ultimately first.
Sure.
And if it's just, if there is already a community that has money set aside to be able to do this work, and we're unable to move forward with it, then maybe next time type of thing.
Okay, so this is a presentation tonight, but it's not an action item, so we're not making an actual decision this evening, right?
It was not put on as an action item.
When would we need to make a decision?
We're going to have so hopefully we can have a workshop so we can vet those projects,
Okay.
potentially come up with any other projects. The work for the students wouldn't start until the fall of 2026. So we're going to be in our next budget year. So it doesn't have an impact on our current budget. This is all in the future. And when you asked, is it 1 year? Well, some of that might bleed over into the next year. How those classes align is how that works, because there has to be the right class to match the projects.
And you would need commitment from the city as well.
Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah.
And you go to them next.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not a commitment. It's ultimately, as staff is working through our preliminary budgets. Well, Jake and I are meeting with, I think, the finance director tomorrow. We've already submitted our preliminary budget books. I've already included this program in there, not overcommitting any board to anything, but it was already due a couple weeks ago. So I basically, what it is for the community development department, whether or not we have the commitment from the Urban Renewal Agency, what it is I have, just like every other department, I have consulting, contracting services baked in every single year. So it's effectively, instead of having that money set aside for a consultant, we would be moving that money into this program. So if there isn't support, I will be shifting that money into having a consultant.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, you bet.
Seeing none other pressing questions, and in the interest of time, I'm going to say thank you. We will come back. It sounds like we'll be coming back to this at a workshop and further discussion. So I'm going to say thank you. I, for one, I'm interested in hearing more. We'll move along to presentation B from Shana Newsom and the Downtown Care Team. And as that gets set up, I'm going to use chair prerogative to take a minute to introduce our newest member, which is Betsy Stelzer. Thank you, Bets. Thanks for being here. Owner or co-owner of the Farm Stand and community volunteer as well.
Thank you so much.
Glad you're here. Presentation number 2.
Sure. Chair and members of the board, I'm going to ask you to take a little bit of it's going to be a little bit of a detour and it's going to be a little bit of a wind of how we got to this presentation. I apologize for my mic going in and out. You'll see on your agenda, we've got resolution 26-01, the exterior refresh pilot. And where this came from is we started having these discussions internally a few months ago, and we started having these discussions last month about what do we want this agency to do and how do we get there between now and 2029. And right after that conversation, Shana dropped into my lap with an idea of a coordinated care team. And the idea is let's spruce up downtown. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been talking about. How do we spruce up downtown? How do we make downtown a better place? And so her original idea was that the agency would hire someone to come in and act as almost staff to start painting and cleaning up downtown, fixing and rehabilitating the buildings, doing the next little piece of it. I worked with our city attorney, Jonathan Cara, on, can we do this? Could we walk this path? And it quickly showed that there's a lot of risk and liability for the agency for us to hire someone to be working on someone else's property. And so we took this idea and kind of molded it into the exterior refresh pilot. And what I also consider it is, coming from the marketing background, this is marketing. This is marketing the incentive program to get the downtown business owners enthused and energetic for doing projects downtown. And it's just like any drug, once you take the first hit, you're far more likely to continue on. And so if somebody's willing to do a window refresh or a refresh of their facade, they're far more likely to come in and start doing other works that we do have our 50/50 loan program. I can say that we updated our loan program 6+ months ago, and we haven't had many people walk through the door yet. I know that there's a lot of people who are interested, but there's a couple things holding businesses back. Number one is the economy right now. Number two, we were going into winter, and people were holding back on their dollars. But what I can tell you is that Shana went around downtown and talked with some owners and came up with some ideas. And she got an overwhelming majority of the people. You'll see on page 68 a list of businesses and building owners who are like, yeah, we'd love this. We'd love this idea. And so what we did with that is turned it into the exterior refresh pilot that's in your packet, that's for your review, that does pretty much what the IP program does, but it's kind of like that first hit to get people energized, as well as to do what is in our plan, and as that is to reduce blight and bring prosperity to downtown. With that, and in the interest of time, I'll ask Shana to introduce herself, as well as kind of go over one of the potential projects, so you can see what this would potentially accomplish for this small amount of money for different businesses. If you would, take it away, please.
Hi, my name's Shana Newsom. I'm the owner of Various Artists, LLC. I am an award-winning production design and art director with over 10 years of experience managing large-scale creative projects for film and restoration work. I specialize in technical art direction, historical restoration, scenic painting, and project budgeting. Many of our downtown buildings are currently suffering from maintenance neglect, small issues like peeling paint, masonry cracks, and exposed wood are turning into major structural problems that will be a lot more expensive to fix later. What I'm offering is a professional expertise to use film industry standards of color matching and accuracy, a deep discounted labor. I'm offering a specialized rate of $35 an hour. That's half the cost for the usual commercial contractor, which I was offering as the 50% for the urban renewal. I'm offering a deep cleaning, structural fixes, waterproofing, priming, and a finishing paint. By funding this initiative, the Urban Renewal Board is investing in a proactive care team that saves the city's historic character and prevents further structural failures. I provide the equipment, the expertise, and the labor to keep the downtown vibrant and structurally sound. And most importantly, small fixes that I'm doing are, there are a lot of things that contractors won't touch as well. So it's just going to be like the wood, the really tiny fixes that you don't maybe necessarily notice, but they're on a smaller scale, really add up. If you pull up the first slide, this is Canton Walk.
They're in our packet, right?
Looks like page, sorry, 30 or 28 of the packet. If we don't have them available electronically, we can certainly follow along as board members. Yep.
So this is the site report for the 2nd Street property, the Canton Walk, or the Shano building. So as you can tell in the first picture, there's definitely some stuff going on. I'll be offering 30 hours of setup and deep cleaning, 30 hours of historic restoration phase, be going through and doing the masonry prep, structural repair and waterproofing, and the finish and detailing. The first slide that I have on here, you can kind of tell that the header is breaking down. It's expanded from water. There's vertical and horizontal cracking or spider webbing, delamination and peeling, and joint failure. So you can see the exterior condition assessment. I've taken a couple pictures of some of the observations I've made. Just
Great.
towards the bottom, the next one. Where? I'd be going through and fixing that so it doesn't look like pretty. It would also keep the water damage from happening as well, and excessive sun damage that's also going on. Love to clean the floors too. Next slide. Talks about the substrate exposure. This goes with sun and water damage. What happens is the water will leak into these kind of areas and also start rotting the internal structure. Again, an exterior report for outside of there. You can kind of see what's going on. And this is something I walk by on a daily basis, so I'd love to fix it. The structural risk is also a big point. As you can see, that's the bottom of the building. If it's not addressed soon, that whole facade could probably fall down in a couple of years. It needs to be fixed from the bottom. What I'm offering is not a Band-Aid, but being able to make something prevent it from happening. Roll down. I gave close-ups. I'd love to, I'm not sure what was in there prior, but I would love to put something in there. And this is pretty much the general state of most of the buildings in the Dalles. I'd love the opportunity to go through and start addressing these kind of tiny areas that really add up. I would also be addressing the bottom portions. I would be going through and just doing the storefronts from the bottom down, not necessarily the top portions yet, because that I would have to get a lift for all those areas. It would take me for each storefront would take about 1.25 months, so 5 weeks. That's 30 hours a week. Setup, restoration, wood, repair, waterproofing, finishing, and detailing. If you're interested, I also have other pictures of some of the other. Not sure what you have time for.
Little light on time. Yeah, we're a little light on time, but what I wanted to do is use this as an example of what can be accomplished for a small amount of money that can help retain the value of these facades and these buildings. There's when you look at the pilot and what Jonathan and I had put together, you'll see that there's a lot of things that aren't allowed. And so if people would like to do things like work on their signs or other things, then they would need to get an IP program grant and pay their half. If they want to replace the windows, you know, once people start into it and they start working on it, they're going to be like, yeah, I want a little bit more, or I'd really like this done. And so then they'll have to come back and apply for the IP program. And so to me, it's a marketing tool that is also doing really good work. And just so that we're very clear how it works and how the program is designed as presented in the packet is that the business owners can choose to hire Shayna. They can choose to hire anyone else that they would like that's a licensed and bonded contractor to do the work. It's just Shayna's done a very great job of number one, pointing out the issues, and number two, showing the interest downtown. And the fact that we have that there is the interest and there's definitely the work, it pretty much sells itself. Thank you so much, Shayna, for the presentation. We'll talk a little bit more about the exterior refresh pilot under action items, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a presentation of what that looks like.
Thank you very much. Shayna, can I ask you one question? I mean, we are tight, but I'm curious now. Actually, I have a bunch of questions, but I'll keep it. I'll keep a leash on it. You've done this kind of work before. Excellent. So you'll be hanging out a shingle, so to speak, and saying, "Hey, look, these needs are obvious, and you are here. You are here and available for the work," and essentially saying, "Business folks, here I am. Let's see if we can clean up some of this." And fact that you have sort of identified this and you want to get to work fixing some of it in sort of a free enterprise approach is just serendipitous that Urban Renewal is like, we've got some funds. We need to help people get going on this. All right. Well, regardless of what we decide now, we go forward. I applaud your bringing this forward in your skill set, and I hope that you get a lot of work.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Do you want further questions, or Jake, or do you really want to wait till
anybody has further questions of Shayna?
That would
happy to know.
One quick one. So Shayna, you're an example of a resource that somebody could use with urban renewal money. There'd still be some sort of application, obviously.
It's in your packet.
Yep. But there's it's not like a preferred provider thing or anything like that. We're not like singling out a single entity. Okay. Just want to make sure I had that right in my head. Thank you.
Any other questions for Shayna or Ms. Newsom? Thank you for being here tonight. Everybody take a deep breath. We're going to pause from presentations and discussions for a moment or two. It's our public comment period. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak for up to 5 minutes? Mr. Cornett. Yeah, I saw your hand first. Please, you got 5 minutes, buddy.
Thank you. I apologize. This is half presentation, half plea.
You've got 5 minutes.
Starting now. My name is Cody Cornett. Address is 1509 East 13th Street, City of the Dalles. So for those of you that don't know, that may not be aware, the Dalles has a park foundation. It's a newly established 501c3, and I'm here as president of the Park Foundation of the Dalles. And over the past year, 2025, it was established. And then finally in October, we established our bank accounts and a website. So everyone knows what that is. The mission statement for the Park Foundation of the Dalles is to raise public funds for the open spaces, parks, and recreational programs for the community. It's not limited to within city limits. It's not limited to specifically park agency owned properties. We left it very broad, and for reasons I'll get to shortly. During the creation of this foundation, I have been to a number of park department meetings because typically a park foundation works in tandem or very, very closely with the agency, identifying projects, raising public funds, because a foundation can raise public funds in different ways than a government agency can. It can also hold those funds in different ways that a government agency can. Now that we are established, we are talking more specifically, more acutely rather, about projects that are coming up within the park district. And one thing that came up at the last meeting that we were talking about, among others, was the Mill Creek Greenway. The Mill Creek Greenway has been a project that's been ongoing. The park currently has, and our Marcus Swift, board member for the Parks Department, can correct me at any time. The park department has a grant from ODOT for this project. Just like everything, any kind of project that was envisioned and bid on in 2019, 2020, and now trying to do those things in 2025, 26 and beyond, it's a completely different number for what those things cost. Mill Creek Greenway has resurfaced as a project. Those costs are very different. That grant has stayed the same. It was brought up in the recent meeting that perhaps Urban Renewal, in addition to what you have already given for that project, could come in and add a little more to the funding pot and make that long-awaited project actually happen. I jumped on this opportunity to come here because the Park Foundation is also looking for something to start their fundraising efforts. We need something to latch on to. We need an agency or agencies to work in tandem with to make this happen. The Park Foundation is new. We have zero gravitas. We have zero public awareness or anything like that. It has to start somewhere. So we would like to do something that people are going to see, right? That people believe in, that the town's going to see. And specifically why I wanted to come to the Urban Renewal Agency for this, in light of the First Street project, in light of some of the things that the presentations were previously before I was speaking, effort needs to go into downtown. I think that the Mill Creek Parkway would be a beautiful bookend to the downtown area. Clean that area up. It's an incredibly underutilized area that is city owned that we could be using and that we should be using. And this is, again, a presentation and a plea to put this on your radar. The Park Foundation is open and ready to do something, and we're looking for something to do. That's it.
Thank you, Cody. Are there any questions from the board for the president of the new Park Foundation? Thanks for bringing this. I just will make a note that, and I have a question for you.
Sure.
And maybe this is for you, maybe this is for Parks District Director, Mr. Baker. So if my Googling and memory is correct, ODOT gave the Parks District 2.6 million, I think 5 years ago. It might even been 6 years ago.
Yes.
And the Parks has been waiting for ODOT to actually release the funds.
Yep.
And meanwhile, of course, the funds are diminishing in value.
Yes.
My question is, do you know if, have they been released? Are they ready to spend the money yet?
It's a great question for our beloved Marcus Swift, who's on the park board and knows that budget sheet a little more intimately.
Sure.
I think that right now it's, from what I understand, cut me off at any time. There is a lot of like, we're almost ready, but we know that we don't have the funding yet. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this project is now starting to cost more like 5 million. Like it's a significant gap. And obviously, we're not asked, the universe, the public at large is not asking Urban Renewal to fund this entire gap. That's why the Park Foundation's here. It's to do this is why it was established, is to do this exact thing. But I just feel that project is something that desperately needs to be done for the community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public? Mr. Gomez, did you have your hand up? Are you interested in? Please come forward and use the microphone and tell us what's on your heart tonight. As long as you can do that in 5 minutes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chuck Gomez, Granada Theater on 2nd Street, P.O. Box 1329. And I'm here to discuss the extension for funding for the basalt comets. I have considerations, concerns, and some precedent to discuss.
Sorry, Mr. Gomez, I hate to interrupt. I want to hear your thoughts on this, but according to our rules and process, since we are speaking about that later, I'm going to ask you to hold off until we speak about it and then come and share your thoughts.
Very good.
Is that fair?
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Is it on page 179 or something? Is it buried deep in the budget?
It's
The
action
agenda?
item 9A. It is only 3 more items on the agenda to go.
150.
I'm not going to promise. We're going to do our darndest to get there with alacrity. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on, and I apologize for not saying this, on a matter that's not on the agenda later? Very good. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to item 8A, which is a discussion item of the Urban Renewal Ideas Matrix. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. This was a fairly difficult task to put together. At last month's meeting, we talked about within the bounds of the current plan, as well as minor amendments, what can the board do and how do we think outside the box to put dollars to use? This came up as part of the conversation that there's a good chance that we will have a little bit more money than we had originally thought, based on bids coming in lower on the First Street project than what we thought they were going to be. And so we may have between now and the end of the agency, based on whether or not certain projects move forward and what the final price comes in on these large projects, we could have between $4 and $7 million to spend between now and the end of the agency. And so the idea was at the last meeting, I know not everyone was here, the idea was think big and come up with ideas. And no idea is a bad idea. And we want to hear them. And so what you have before you is 3 pages of ideas that I tried to break down into a matrix so that we can have something to discuss and talk about. 3 members of the board isn't even a quorum. And I think the best way that we can move forward with this is to get some other ideas from the rest of the board members. Last time I gave 2 weeks for everyone, because that's about the 2 weeks between then and now is how much time we have to get things ready and to get the board packet out and everything else. My thought here is it would be great to have a workshop this next month, because we're in budget season and we've got to make some decisions about what that looks like. Every year Urban Renewal is one of those really nice agencies because it makes my budget easy, because we budget everything, so that we could spend everything if the right projects come up. And it usually just falls into certain buckets. Part of the conversation we've been having is how much money do we want to spend on public projects? How much money do we want to spend on buildings and private projects? And how much money could we potentially spend on not just building it, but making sure they come? and thinking of ways outside of the box to try to fill these empty spaces downtown, whether it's TI improvements or whether it's funding for new businesses that are willing to sign a long-term lease in some of these buildings. These are just the ideas that members of the board as well as the city managers came up with that you can see before you as I tried to distill it down as much as possible. But what I'd really love is for the rest of you who are willing to come forward with ideas to try to get me those ideas in the next week. I will build it into the matrix, and then we can have a good discussion and try. My goal is to get as much out of the matrix as possible so that we can really set that policy and directive. You know, I'm looking at this from both hats. You know, the Urban Renewal Agency is one hat, but also the ideas and thoughts that you come up with are part of what economic development for the city is going to do over the next few years. We do not have an economic development strategy at this time. Economic development works off of a 5-year plan of a very small matrix that was never even adopted by the city council. And so what I'm going to help to do is take this idea and matrix that you come up with to also help determine the economic development strategy for the city, at least the draft that I can put in front of the board and the community so that we can really start thinking big about how we pull all of these different pieces together so that we make downtown the Dalles or the Urban Renewal Agency bounds as best as it can possibly be in 2029. So 2 things. I'm looking, number 1, would you be willing to have a workshop in early March? And number 2, those of you who haven't had a chance because of life and your volunteers to try to get me some ideas that we can add to this matrix, or it makes it really easy in your ideas. You can also say that these ones on here, the stupid ones, need to go. And I would love to be able to help weed out the chaff from all of these projects, as well as if you disagree with whether or not, because I know Jill's going to look at it in terms of is this something that can fall within the current agency rules and the current agency plan, or whether or not it would be a minor amendment or a substantial amendment. You know, everything you see on here was just my thoughts in terms of workload and ideas, because we only have so much time.
So thank you. So you're asking for 2 things, essentially, not a vote, but a nod from the board. If we are willing to send you by email any additional project thoughts on a real variety and diversity of ideas is welcome by close of business next Tuesday, a week from now.
That would be great.
Okay. That's one ask from Urban Renewal board members. And the second would be a workshop. And my question to you is just to really clarify what that workshop would be. That would be to take basically the brainstorming list or the matrix. It's a brainstorming list, and discuss as a group what would be appropriate and both for mission and for feasibility or effectiveness within the urban renewal mission. So we wouldn't have to go through 50 or 100 ideas and say good, bad, or indifferent. We could just say this isn't urban renewal appropriate and we like it or not, and then go from there.
I think what it'll do is it'll help us with our budgeting for next year.
Yeah.
I think it'll help us with the management of staff time for working on projects and what things we go after.
Very good. And my last question to you, at least at the moment, is could we do that at or in place of the March Urban Renewal board meeting, regular board?
You are the board. I work at your discretion.
Well, I've tipped my hand, my opinion. Thoughts from the rest of the board? Does that seem reasonable to people, those 2 asks, or not? I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads. Any nodding or shaking of heads? None. I sense a firm and solemn pledge from each and every board member to give you at least one idea by the end of close of business on Tuesday. So help them. And a work session to follow, which will have the narrow scope of what would be fruitful and appropriate urban renewal project ideas. stupid projects can be included or discluded, but we'd just be speaking for the urban renewal, and the city can take up any other ideas or not at its discretion. Fair?
I will definitely probably be using your ideas outside of urban renewal as well.
Very good. Onward. Discussion item 8B. I am agog to hear, what is the Lewis and Clark internship?
So this is called hedging your bets in life. And we were, not only was the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year program, you never know if you're going to get picked, and you never know if they're going to want to work with you. And we have a lot of work to do in this city. And so I also at that time applied for the Lewis and Clark internship program. And usually you get one intern. The cost is $1,500, and it's a 10-week class. And the college pays for half of it. And so really it's $750 for a student who's a junior or senior in college to work on a project or multiple projects. And when I look at everything through the lens of value, I look at this is a high value for very low cost. And so I jumped all over it and interviewed students and so what we got is, I think there were 30 businesses or organizations that were looking for students, and I think there was 12 to 15 students available, and I was able to get 2 of them. And I call that a big win for the city and a big win. And I think what that means is that we've got great ideas and great things to do. And these students are looking for capstone projects, something that they can market on their resume as they go out into the world. And I found 2 very amazing students. And I'd like to introduce you to Evan Stover, who is a senior student at Lewis and Clark who is studying economics, and I was very much impressed with his interview. And Evan, can you screen share, Evan? And tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you're working on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction. Please let me know if you all can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfection. All right. So my name is Evan Stover. I know we're strict for time, so I'll keep this as fast as I can. As you said, Jacob, I'm an economics major. I'm a senior at Lewis and Clark College, and I'm super excited today to be discussing the beginnings of the downtown market analysis and retail mixed strategy project that I will be conducting for the next 2 months under the supervision of Jacob Anderson. And so to discuss this project, I wanted to focus on the core motivation, why this project needs to exist. And it boils down to this one question: is downtown of the city of the Dalles a pass-through city or a destination city? I remember in my interview with Jacob, this was a core issue that he brought up to me. And I remember that he expressively stated that he wants it to feel homey, like a living room. This past Friday, I met with Dustin Nilsson with the city of Hood River. And he told me when I was asking for advice on how to start this project, this was the main question. He's like, well, is the city of the Dalles a pass-through or a destination? And he's like, well, I'll give you a hint. Right now, it's a pass-through. And the point of this project is we need to shift that narrative. We want to make downtown into a destination, a place for people to stay for the day, not just to do a chore. So I want to kind of give like a walkthrough of my perspective as an outsider, so you get to see kind of the point of this project and my perspective that I bring into this project. I took the liberty of taking a screenshot on Google Earth. This is East 3rd Street in Washington. On your left are 2 bars. I want you to imagine that it's Friday night and there's 5 people going out after work. They're grabbing a beer. They go to that bar to the left. They come out after 3 hours and they say to each other, all right, let's hit the town. Let's have some fun. This is a one-way street, which is super important. So they go down to the next block. What are they met with? 2 banks on the right, Wells Fargo and Umpqua, and on the left, a social security facility. That is a pass-through city. And this is a core economic problem, especially behavioral. We are present biased people. When we see, especially if we're coming out of a bar and we go down the block and we see this doesn't scream, I want to stay. I want to spend my time here. This screams, we should go home. Same sort of story on East 2nd Street in Madison. At the beginning of the road, again, one way. On our left, we have a brewery, and on the right, we have food and drink. We have families coming out of there full in their bellies from their food. They're looking for something to do for the day. They go down the block, and they're met with this: a body shop, a cannabis shop, and a hearing aid store. This doesn't scream something to do for the day. This screams a specific chore. You go to do this, and then you leave. So this is preliminary data. I've only been working on this for less than a week, but I wanted to give a visual of some data on this second street. And I want to point out that restaurants is the highest business type on East 2nd Street. This is good. This is creating a lot of energy for foot traffic, people going in to eat, whether that's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And a question I'll focus on in this project is the diversity of these restaurants. So we have this pent up energy, but as you can see, when we look at other business types, what's missing is entertainment. There's no place to spend that energy. No one wants to, after going to the bar or eating a lunch, wants to go to pet washing, sewing contractors, economic development agencies. These are the things that I'm trying to analyze and hopefully fill in the gaps to make the Dalles a destination and not just a place to go in and out. So this project is going to take 6 steps. We're starting with what we have, so I'm going to be beginning by taking an inventory of downtown and also looking at vacancies and square footage. After doing that, and I've already been implementing this by meeting with Dustin Nilsson, I'll also be meeting with Steve Chrisman with Pendleton, and hopefully Walla Walla, I'm in contact. I'm going to be looking at these sister cities and seeing their success stories, their mixtures of businesses, what works for them to make a destination city that the Dalles is missing. And naturally, what's going to follow from there is a leakage and surplus analysis. That's going to be specifying the demand for these businesses. How much demand do we have for restaurants? Is it exceeding that demand? Is it not meeting that demand? I'm going to be getting some data points on that and seeing then for the retail mix if we can fill in for those demand gaps. And finally, once I have that retail mix and that market analysis completed, then I'll be proposing the draw-in. How are we going to get incentivize these businesses to come in to downtown? And also, how are we going to retain these businesses for the foreseeable future? And all of those steps will be compiled into a final report that I will be displaying and handing out with all of this information, hopefully to take action. And of course, this project is seeking results. I understand that I am a college student and I'm very passionate about economics. And while this is a passion project, this isn't an idealistic project. This is a real project and I'm looking for real results. And that involves us working together. And I understand that I'm an objective perspective, but I want to hear also what you all have to say, your feedback, and also the context that you bring with your history living in the Dalles. This is working together, and also by the end of this project and this report, to take action on this plan, we need to invest in these new businesses, to fund these new businesses. And hopefully through this project and my work, I can instill confidence in your fortitude in making those funding decisions. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to hear what you think.
Do you want questions now?
We can ask questions right now. I mean, how do you not ask questions with the amount of zeal and energy Evan has?
Are there thoughts or comments from the board? And well, people are framing those. One for you, Jacob. What are you asking, if anything, from the board at this? Is this just to inform and bring us up to speed? Is this something you have in your budget, or are you looking for a future decision?
This is to let you know what we're working on, as well as, this downtown retail mix strategy. I'm also looking at him to come up with what is our vacancy rate in terms of downtown businesses. All the things that if one day we had like a business license or something, that would help me identify the numbers. Both of these students are, they do economics and they're heavy into research and they're heavy into understanding, the things that I don't have time for all of this, but it's all really good information. Like that was the first time I saw the retail mix strategy for downtown and how many restaurants we have on 2nd Street. I think there's a lot of value to be gained out of this, but you guys are professionals in the city. And if there's any ideas that you have that can help define or help maneuver the direction, the output of what Evan's working on, I would love to incorporate your ideas into it. And that is the real ask here. Is if you have any ideas. As you can see, you can't get from Google Earth the fact that there is no Social Security Administration building anymore. It is now the home of the county, and that MCED does not and has not operated down on West 2nd Street for many years, but the sign is still up, even though I've asked the building owners to take it down multiple times. And so I'm looking forward to bringing Evan in downtown and showing him so he can really get the feel of it. But if you guys have any ideas on how to help make this project more successful, I would love to hear them.
Please.
I just find your energy very contagious. As a business owner, when I have an employee that's been there for a couple of years and they're getting complacent, I will walk them outside and I will walk them back in and ask them to look at the space as a customer would who had never been there before, and just refresh that perspective. And I feel like that's what you just gave us. And there's so much value in a fresh pair of eyes, and we're really excited to have you. And thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else care to share thoughts or questions at this point? I will say that I will, I'll send you an email with a few thoughts. Yeah.
Well, he was talking a lot about somebody's looking for entertainment. And I think that the magnet in Hood River in the summer is the windsurfing. That's the entertainment people come to Hood River for. Sometimes they go to cute shops. But I don't know what the trends are in people his age, what they look for in entertainment anymore. You can stare at your cell phone all day long in the Dalles as easy as any other town. So what is it that people are looking for that we don't have? Try to get a theme and try to pick something that people actually come here for instead of a broad thing like, well, maybe people want some entertainment.
Well, I appreciate that comment. I would say maybe look at things people my age want to do, because that would make it a lot more exciting. Please, Commissioner Hickey.
Well, I think some people like museums, some people like historic buildings. And I don't know for sure, but I think that tends to be something people our age are a little more interested in. And I'm not saying you want to turn away any age group, but what is the things that would actually make us a destination? And he's looking at Walla Walla. I don't think Walla Walla has any spectacular things that the Dalles doesn't have, but maybe they've found some things that will draw people in. I'm not sure. I haven't been to Walla Walla for a long, long time.
Commissioner, did you have no thoughts? Sorry. Anybody else care to share thoughts off the cuff? And if not, it sounds like the invite is there to reach out to Mr. Anderson with some of those.
And likely, Evan and I will both be reaching out to some of you individually as the project goes on to get your perspective and potentially a survey from you or some one-on-one discussions from your experience or your professional background. Next up, I'm really excited to announce Jasmine Contreras, who is a senior as well, economics student. And this one took a little bit of a turn from what I was originally interviewing for, which didn't have anything to do with the downtown and urban renewal at all. It was a marketing plan for the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport for the new business park that we currently opened, and how we market that and how we sell that and how do we get those spots filled. And while she is going to be working on that as well, in our conversations, we started talking about something else that's missing in the Dalles. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk a little bit about what she's going to be working on that may interest urban renewal.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try to share my screen. Let's see. Doo-doo-doo. Aquí. Uh, yeah. Present this. Is this good? Can we see
Yes, yes, we can.
presentation? Awesome. Perfect. All right. So through our conversations, not only with Jacob, but also even just with my internship professor, we came to the idea of a Latino-owned business strategy. I'm Hasmin Contreras. Hasmin Contreras. I'm an economics and data science student at Lewis and Clark. I'm a first-generation Latina, and I'm also from Hood River, so I'm a Columbia Gorge local, and also partially from Tri-Cities. I was born there, lived there for a few years, and then moved to the Columbia Gorge. I have a big background in economic research as well as a lot of community-based work, like doing a lot of surveying and a lot of work through OSU Extension Service in Hood River, for example. What I started thinking about is what is missing for Latino businesses in the Dalles. You know, obviously being from Hood River, I go to the Dalles a lot because there isn't much to do in Hood River if you're not going to the small businesses. So when you have a lot of those errands to do, like Evan was mentioning, you go to the Dalles. What I see is that in downtown, for example, there aren't many Latino-owned businesses. And as I was, connecting those dots, I started to think, what's missing? What I can see is that this is a bit of an information problem. I see that there's limited formal channels connecting Latino businesses and Latino business owners to city processes. For example, I don't see much representation of Latinos or Latino business owners in many of the city councils, boards, or anything at all, when the Dalles is more than 20% Latino. There doesn't seem to be any clearly designated like bilingual point person within local government, which is something that we do tend to have in Hood River, and I feel like is very successful, is that creating that community connection between the local businesses and the like government structures. In the same vein, underrepresentation in advisory, planning, economic development spaces, just really trying to connect that link. But also something that Latino businesses struggle not only at the Dalles, but just overall, anywhere they can be, is access to capital, grants, policy and regulatory updates, and incentive programs. That can be because they're not very well connected to these city spaces or because of language barriers. A lot of Latinos, mostly in the area, are people that English is not their first language. And so having bilingual communications, having people who can communicate with them just on a regular basis or that they can go to is incredibly important. Long story short, I think we just lack a structured way to engage with the significant part of the local small business economy. The economic relevance, I'm an economics student, so I wanted to tie it back. As I mentioned earlier, I do see this as kind of an information problem. I think we just need to make sure we close that gap of information and that trust barrier, because without that, we kind of have a market inefficiency. Obviously, businesses are going to underinvest. There's most likely a lot of businesses that can scale up, and we just need to help or like understand what they need in order to scale up. Capital can be underutilized. Incentives such as grant programs can be underutilized and under-accessed. And then the commercial capacity, for example, a lot of empty lots in downtown can also be underactivated. Here's kind of what I envision for my proposal. Since Jacob did give me kind of ownership of this thing, he said, give us some ideas and we'll give you feedback and we'll kind of work on this, which was really exciting. First, I think a good first step would be a business outreach and mapping initiative. So first, I would love to create a simple business needs survey that would be disseminated to all Latino-owned businesses operating in the Dalles. I would love to understand their business size, the sector, growth goals, just to really understand and identify their needs. I think this could be a really great opportunity to start that engagement and also create a tool, create some data, create a report that could be very useful for us as people working on the economic development of the Dalles overall. As a part of this, this could be the beginning of an opt-in business contact list, which I come back to in the promotion part of this. The second part, I think, could be structured engagement and support. A part of this, direct engagement, which would be in-person visits to small businesses, as well as small group active listening sessions. I say active listening because I don't think that this should just be us talking to them about what they need. I think it needs to be active listening of what do they need from us so that we can meet those gaps. As well as I think we should consider having a bilingual city point person. There should be someone who people who don't necessarily speak English can go to and communicate about any of these grant programs, or, if for some reason, or if any of the facade improvement programs come through and like go into action, there should be someone bilingual who can disseminate information about that so that these programs are also used by the Latino businesses. After that, I think we should do practical support. This could be finance-focused workshops, which I think is a good basis for a lot of people who may not have access to traditional knowledge about finance. So I could be talking about loans, CDFIs, grants, and city programs, as well as making sure that people know about like new policy updates and things happening in the city that could affect their businesses. Thirdly, I think strategic partnerships are going to be super important. Partnerships with places like the Next Door in Hood River, which already have similar programs that help Latino businesses, are going to be crucial because once again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel if we can just partner with these entities and make sure that we are meeting people where they are. CGCC could be a very great resource, a community college. I think there's a lot of amazing students that come out of there, and there's a lot of Latinos that are local that go there. So that could be a great connection to make, as well as the Dalles Latino Network, getting in contact with them. The goal of this is just to create a lasting connection that is consistent and just improves access to capital and information in the long term, not just a one and done. The next phase of this, I think, would be promotion. One of those things could be like a published online, opt-in online directory, just to highlight Latino businesses. I think it could be really awesome as well to have a targeted seasonal campaign, for example, during Hispanic Heritage Month, which happens from September into October. Cinco de Mayo, even though it's not necessarily a Hispanic holiday, it is a time where the Hispanic identity is very much so in the limelight. So it could be a really great time to make some sort of promotion campaign to kind of highlight these businesses, as well as the Cherry Festival that happens, I think, in April. That could be another really awesome time to highlight a lot of these Latino businesses, as a lot of our Latino population are the people that work in agriculture and help us sustain the orchards. So I think that could be a very cool opportunity to meet people where they are. This approach would just, once again, try to drive that foot traffic into the Dalles, into downtown the Dalles, into Latino businesses, and just continue supporting local economic growth. With all of that said, I think it's pretty safe to say I don't live in the Dalles. I live in Hood River, and for the past couple of years, I've lived a large majority of my time in Portland. So this is just what I see as an insider-outsider, semi-local, but not super local. So I would love to hear more from you all. What do you guys see with Latino businesses? Any personal experience? Any connections or any contacts you might want to pass on to me? Yeah.
Wow, thank you. I love the enthusiasm, and same as last time. Does anybody have any immediate thoughts to share? Yes, please.
Just one quick comment. If you haven't already connected with Blanca Flores, that would be someone I think it would be great to get introduced with. She had a Latina small business kind of roundtable that was grassroots. That was together for a while. Not sure what happened to it, but I know it was a very active group, and I think they have some great ideas. So it makes sense to connect with her.
Awesome. Thank you. I wrote that down.
Question. One of the other things that I would encourage you to look at is the number of Hispanic or Latino businesses that we have had in the downtown area here in the Urban Renewal District. Angel's Bakery has been around forever, and it's amazing. There's others that have come and gone over time. And one thing that would be valuable, and this is something that I've spoken to Jacob about in the past as well, is it'd be interesting to understand of the businesses that were here and are not, how long were they here and why are they not here, right? I would love to compare that to other relevant information to the same question that I've been asking is, what businesses are established and have a presence here in general, and of those that are not, why aren't they here, right? And it'd be interesting to compare and contrast those to the rest of our downtown district over time.
Other thoughts? Thank you, Jacob and Yasmin.
Yeah, as you can see, we're pushing the boundary here, and I'm trying to bring everything together. When you look at what Evan's proposing to do, and you look at what she's proposing to do, of course, I hope you can all see that there's going to be some overlap, and there's going to be some working together, and I think it's going to make both projects better. And I think we'll be able to do some really neat things and really take a step in the right direction with outreach. We do our best at the Urban Renewal Agency in making sure everything's translated into Spanish. But I can't tell you that I've been out knocking on the doors and talking to every Spanish business owner about the IP program. Jasmine's going to be able to do a lot of that work for me and hopefully create those connections and build that network so that when we move forward with what we're going to do between now and the end of the agency, we'll be able to bring them along hand in hand as well.
Great. Thank you. Give her a stack of your cards. Without further ado, I'm just going to take the temperature of the board. Are we good to continue on? Do you need a break? All right. Deep breath. Action item 9A, third amendment to the incentive program. When you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the board. You have before you and I apologize for the typo. It's actually the second amendment to the incentive program grant agreement, as well as the development funding agreement for the Basalt Commons project. This is a conversation that we had a little bit last month, giving some updates for those that were here. And what we have is some great updates that the project is continuing to move forward. Things are, of course, take longer than we've hoped throughout this entire process. I believe it's almost 8 years now of this process, trying to do our first large project in downtown the Dalles. I will assume that everyone has had a chance to review the staff report for the extension request, as well as the extension request from Hanlon Development. And I would ask the board, do you have any questions at this time? Or would you like me to go through that staff report? I know the chair is trying to keep this under this meeting before 8 o'clock, and I said I would do my best to make sure that would happen.
I feel current and fresh on this, but I want to make sure the rest of the board is, so not to put everybody on the spot. Does anybody want a review of the staff report and where we are with the project?
I would like just a brief overview, just an update on some of the things that have happened since the last month.
So as we were putting this request and proposal together, I had to think about what would we be asking for this extension request. You know, the goal is that we show that there is constant and clear progress, that this is not stalling, that we're not holding the money aside. Right now, we don't have any direct action for the money. We don't have that money. So like if we don't do this, we're doing X. And that gives the board, I believe, a little bit more leeway. And one of the things that I was going to write into the staff report was that, you know, there's 4 things that really need to happen. At this time, when I was writing it, number 1 was they needed to get the answer from Boley, whether or not, you know, all the money from the county side, as well as the money that we're investing, isn't going to trigger prevailing wage laws, because that would have a material impact on the project. They also need to make sure that the cost to construct has not gone up significantly, and that the expectation is going to still be within the ballpark in order to do the project. In essence, making sure that the project is still viable at what the expected results were. And they also needed to make sure that they get the bank's buy-off and financing. And so I wrote this multiple different ways in terms of, you know, making sure that it moves forward. And then when I was finishing it, they actually got the response from Boley, and the response was positive. And so that takes 1 out of the 4 answers away. Within the next 3 months, I think all the other 3 answers will come forward, and we will know whether the project is moving forward. And then after that, you're 3 months into breaking ground. You know, you've got your permitting process and breaking ground. When you look at our agreements and how they're written for when the board releases the money, about 6 months is where we're at right now. And so the staff recommendation, from what I have heard from the board up until this point, is that we've been supporting this project since the beginning, and we don't want to be the reason that the project doesn't move forward, because without the agency support, the project would not be able to move forward. That is the staff recommendation at this point, to give another 6 months to finalize everything. And if any of those other 3 things come back with a no, well, then we know that the project's not moving forward, or that changes our conversations in a month for what we do with the agency funds until the end of the agency. You know, we are investing a significant amount of public resources into this project that would then need to be redirected to something else. And so we want this project, and as I understand, we've always wanted this project to succeed, but we also need to think about what if it didn't succeed, and where do we put those dollars? Staff feels very confident that, you know, within 6 months we'll know, and hopefully within that time we'll also be able to have some backup plans.
So I heard 2, Boley and cost overrides. What's 3 and 4? Identified areas you mentioned.
So there's the Boley.
Yes.
Okay. And then they are going back through, I should ask Mary to come forward. I don't know if this is fully my place. They also need to make sure that for the bank financing side.
Okay.
So they have to get their appraisal, and then there's a review appraisal that has to occur.
So that's number 3.
In a lineal fashion, sure.
Yes, I'm lineal.
Yeah. And then we also need the county to move forward with the purchase of the property. And then if you want to put in there, you've got all the permits and everything else.
So can you talk more about what the county needs to decide? And I'm sitting here thinking that the banks thing is going to hinge on what the county does or doesn't do. Am I wrong about that? I mean, if the county doesn't come through for you, the whole.
So as staff to the agency, I number one can't speak for the county.
Yeah.
And I don't try to make assumptions for what the county's going to do. I think what the agency has done is done their part to bring to bear what the agency has in terms of funds available. And Mary is here. If you have any direct questions for Mary, but from my perspective, I can only speak to the things that we know, as well as the city. The city is also we've put forward the vertical housing tax credit. We've got in essence a predetermination for the project. So, and I believe the city is close to agreeing to the building permit for it. So that's part of the building plans, which really isn't a building permit. It's more like a site permit, and then the county issues the real building permit.
Vertical housing tax credit.
The VHTZ, yes.
Yeah, I remember talking many years ago about that. But this is a result of those talks.
That is correct, sir.
Got it.
So the request is to extend the previously agreed urban renewal contribution for another 6 months. Are there other board questions of Jacob? I'm going to ask, I know there's one or two other folks that would like to comment, but I'm first going to ask you if you have any questions for Jacob.
One quick question.
Yeah.
So the document talks about having most of these accomplished in the next 3 months, but we're asking for 6 months. What happens between the 3 months and the 6 months?
So the reason that I put it for 6 months is so that we can actually pay out the funds. Because once everything gets started and she's got the money, she's got everything in place to go, she still has to start construction, she has to demolish the building, and then she has to apply to hook the water line and sewer line up before that we can pay the DFA dollars. And then at the same time, there's the agreement and how it works out for when we provide all the funds for the incentive program for the money to go to the Parks District as well as to the city for those dollars. So we've got there's two agreements that have to roll, and so that's the difference. Like if we just did it for 3 months, we'd be back here in 3 months. When everything's going, we'd have to still extend it for another 3 months so that we could actually pay out, because we have to get through the time of payment for the extension.
I have some questions for Jake.
Yep.
Mr. Anderson. During the recent city goal setting sessions, we identified housing as a community needs and that we had a deficit. In your opinion, do we still have a housing deficit or need?
The housing production strategy says that we do.
Yes. Will approval of the extension cost the city financially?
The city? I don't believe it costs. Are you talking about this?
Urban development.
The only cost to the Urban Renewal Agency is your opportunity cost of what else could that money be spent on somewhere else that you have not currently identified.
You talked about constant progress. Has the Dalles Third LLC or the Hanlon, have they failed to make any consistent progress or meet obligations?
I would say that is I guess the only way I can answer that is that they are continuing to move forward, and that many of the decisions to move forward are outside their wheelhouse. And so, like when you're dealing with a bank, you're on the bank's timeline. When I can tell you that the city has done everything it can with community development to move forward the project. Urban Renewal has continued to support the project, and I believe they have been doing everything they can to make the project move forward as well.
Are there any other developers out there in the wings that are looking either to develop another housing project or to work with this particular one?
I do not know of anyone else who's looking to work with this particular project on this site. We do have multiple projects for housing that have been through the entitlement process through the Community Development Department that have not started over the last 4 or 5 years. Josh is still here, and he could speak to that a little bit better about the number of units that are permitted but have not been built.
Okay. Is anyone going to gain because of denial or not approving this? Or will someone gain if we do extend this request? I'm trying to get at anyone that benefits. I don't see one, but I want to ask that question.
I guess I would say that the Dalles has not seen large scale development downtown in generations. We talk about the next generation. You saw Evan speaking a little earlier about the young people, and you saw Commissioner Dinstead speaking about that next generation that we may not have a lot of things for. When I think about like downtown apartments, I think about the next generation, the people in those next years who are going to want to live in a downtown walkable community, then kids who want to move home and be able to afford to move home. I would say that the denial is probably they're the ones who would lose in this situation.
Was well put.
Other questions of Mr. Anderson?
I know that you said that she has not, a lot of the delays have been outside of her control. Are you confident that there's not going to be more delays outside of her control that are going to take more than 6 months? Are we going to be back? I know you said you don't want to be back here again in 3 months. Are we going to be back here again in 6 months? Do you have a lot of confidence?
I think that when the county or when the city is getting ready to issue a building permit and the entitlements are completed, that's a really good sign. I think when Boley is given their answer, that's a really good sign. I don't know the state of the conversations between them and the county, but I think when the county makes their decision, that's going to be a really big sign. And at the next point, Mary invited Josh and I into a meeting with the contractors that she has on board for this project. As soon as the agreement with the county is in place and the financing is ordered, they're going to do a full bottom-up appraisal to make sure, the contractor is going to go to their subs and get firm numbers. I mean, that's how close we are to moving forward. You're literally, you're at the go or no go button. It's one of the funnest times in any project development process.
Thank you.
Ms. Hanlon, you've given us a letter. It's in our packet. Do you have the desire to speak further tonight? If so, come on up.
You all for considering an extension. We did get some really good news, and we are pushing really hard, and we'll work on this project as long as you guys want to keep working on it. It's been very challenging, but we're chipping away at the barriers, and we're very close. I would say 6 months is tight, because Jake mentioned, we don't control a lot of the timelines at this point, but ideally, if everything goes as planned, we will be breaking ground soon.
Any questions for Ms. Hanlon from the board? Thank you very much. Fingers crossed. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak for or against? Mr. Gomez.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity. I have concessions. I realize that the city has made concessions, considerations, and much of the community has concerns on the Basalt Commons project. I'd like to point out that in the late 1950s, probably 1959, the Studebaker building, which is now the Social Security building, was 3 buildings that were compiled into one single building. And the city at that time insisted that there would be underground parking. And that's when the United States had about 140 million people. We now have about 350 million people. So there's a bigger population, and we do not have underground parking at the Basalt Commons. And please bear with me. A consideration was made for the extension and the variance for the additional stories put on the Basalt Commons building, which I felt was a violation of the downtown historic district and a blocking of the river view from the eastern section of the Hilltop Homes. I really still believe that that's a large detriment to our community. And lastly, I'd like to use some examples for extending a financial agreement from the Urban Renewal Department here. When we started the purchase and restoration of the Granada, we did come to the Urban Renewal for about an $18,000 grant. Thank you very much. And that grant said that specifically we had to present and have approved contractors for the work to be done and financed by the Urban Renewal Department. We only were doing the exterior of the building. 2 painters were involved. One was painting the entire outside of the building, and the other painter was painting the marquee. Well, we painted the outside of the building first, and then that painter said to me, both painters had been approved by Urban Development. But as the outside of the building was finished, the first painter said to me, we got all our stuff here. Our guys are here. Why don't we just finish and paint the marquee for you, and we'll save the city $2,000. So I went ahead and said, makes sense to me. It makes dollars and cents to me. You've been approved. You're here. We're going to reduce the money borrowed or granted by the Urban Renewal Department by over $2,000. Please go ahead. And it was later that the Urban Renewal Department said, well, you really didn't come to us to clarify that approved contractor was now going to paint the marquee, so we're not going to give you that $5,000-$6,000. You'll just have to pay for it yourself. Well, I'm a big boy. I butched up. I don't hold a grudge. I wrote the check. We took care of it. We moved on. We became successful. We have a beautiful crown in the downtown's jewel in the downtown's crown. But those words rang true to me. And I believe that the last time that the Basalt Commons came to this board and asked for an extension, the board said, okay, and granted 6 months. And said, but we hope it doesn't happen again. And then Basalt Commons came to the board a second time and said, we need another 6-month extension. And it's my belief that this very board said, okay, we'll grant that extension, but no more. We're not granting any more extensions. Fish or cut bait. Let's get going on this. I know things come up. Things come up. Deadlines can be met. I believe that. I believe that when Kennedy said we'll be on the moon this decade, and we were. There were a lot of issues that came up getting the Americans to the moon. Kennedy overcame those. NASA overcame those. I believe this project can be overcome. And I believe we are at the end of granting extensions for the Basalt Commons. It's time to see progress on that. Now, I have been asked to come and make this diatribe to this committee by the neighborhood that I live in on 7th Street. All the neighbors, much of them have lived there over 50 years. And they are very much ear to the ground on what takes place with the Basalt Commons, because it is all their views that are the front living room and front porch views that the Basalt Commons is going to block once it goes up that 7 stories. So I am here on behalf of many of those citizens, tax-paying citizens, and you have their letter that they all signed. And what I'm hearing tonight is that Basalt Commons can go ahead if the county grants them their money, if the city grants them their money, if the banks grant them their money. I don't feel there's enough skin in the game. Did not the Basalt Commons buy that parking lot, the used parking lot, and then sell it back to the city for a small profit? I don't believe that we have a moving forward project for this community. And I think the Urban Development Board here should think long and hard about actually how vested this group is to make this come to fruition. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? What's the pleasure of the board? Are there questions? Is there comment? Is there a motion to be made? We have a staff recommendation. We have a staff report and a recommendation. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chair, may I add one thing?
Yes.
When the board has tasked us or me with finding ways to create housing in downtown. And the first thing I worked on was expanding the IP program, the incentive program, so that we could put more money in to make it a better swing at providing housing downtown, because $50,000 wasn't cutting it for a long time. And we increased it to $300,000. And right now, someone could come forward with an upstairs, with a building downtown, and say, I want to create 2 units. And they could have access to $300,000 of urban renewal money that would come in front of the board for 2 units. You'd pay $150,000 per unit. When you look at the amount of investment that what we're proposing to put in terms of urban renewal dollars into the Basalt Commons project, it is a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But when you look at it per unit, it becomes the cheapest possible investment in housing that you can come up with, compared to what we can already, anybody can walk through the door right now and get $150,000 per unit. You know, when we're at $1.7 million and there's 117 units, you're an order of magnitude less than that cost. And I apologize for not putting it in the staff report. It's something I should have brought up during the first verbal conversation, and I forgot.
So staff and Ms. Hanlon need an answer to this question. So I would entertain some discussion. I would certainly entertain a motion for something. Is anybody interested in proposing a motion or some action on this item? Commissioner Hagee?
Okay, two things. I wanted to just clarify the role of the county and where the county's at, just so everybody knows that. So we have a quite an interim kind of thing that we're proposing to do, and we have done a lot of work, like getting to that point. We haven't taken it to a decision yet, but I anticipate that we would probably do that pretty quickly. We didn't want to act before Boley. The decision by Boley was like key. So if the decision of Boley that this would be prevailing wage, I think Mayor would agree that the project wouldn't be feasible. So we didn't want really to take action and do all of the work and activity to make a decision before that was in. And that was just, I think, a week and a half ago. So that's new. And I would anticipate the county's probably going to consider this shortly. But our role is just really we're not providing any grants to the project. We're basically been asked to consider purchasing the property and leasing it back to the development for a fairly short window of time, where we will and then we will sell the land back to the project after the project is developed and leased up. So we anticipate that being about 3 years. And during that period of time, we will earn interest on the money that's out there that actually will be higher than the level of interest than we would otherwise earn investing it elsewhere. So that's the role of the county. That's the only role of the county. I mean, other than building codes, which is a normal function that the county does. So I just want to make sure that that's clear why we haven't done anything. Like our decision's not been made yet was because we were waiting for that. If anybody has any other questions for me in terms of the role of county, and I would tell you also that I am one person. I do not make the decision. There's 3 county commissioners, and the 3 of us will have to make the decision. And I don't know what the decision will be because I can only tell you what one person could do.
Thank you for that clarification. I am going to encourage people to hold off on questions for the county in that it is not an urban renewal decision. And we are, so I'm fascinated and would love to hear more, but not at this moment.
I can talk afterwards. And with that, I would go ahead and move to authorize the agency manager to enter the second amendments to the incentive program grant agreement and development funding agreement with TD Third LLC to reflect new expiration dates for those agreements as of August 19th, 2026.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Yes.
I hate to. Point of order. Being that the county is going to potentially be buying the property, does Commissioner Heggie feel that it's wise to disclose that, which he did, and then ask for the potential for recusal? I just want to make sure that we're not creating anything that could possibly, and the city attorney's online. Tell me if I'm in left field, Jonathan. I just don't want to have anything possibly go wrong here.
You're out in left field, Jake.
Okay. That's what I wanted to, thank you.
Well, so, and just to be clear, yeah, I mean, the county certainly has a role in this project. I personally have no direct conflict of that. Maybe I have a potential but there's no path forward for me to be financially benefited by any of this.
Good to know. We do have a motion. We do have a second. Is there discussion on the motion from the board? Do you feel that you have questions answered? Are you all ready for a vote? Let's take a vote. All in favor of the motion as stated by Commissioner Heggie, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone who wishes to abstain? Is there anyone who wishes to vote no? Say nay.
Nay.
We have the vote. Motion passes. Thank you. You have your extension. Next item, 9B. Resolution 26001 exterior refresh pilot. Are you good to keep going, Mr. Anderson?
Give me 1 second.
All right.
Chair and members of the board, thank you for this little windy path that it took to get to this conversation. I wanted to make sure everybody who could go home, that wanted to go home. This was created through part of our discussions at last month about how do we have small wins and what can we do to create some small wins downtown, and then literally falling in my lap about a potential way to do that, and then taking it over the course of the month and working with Jonathan to come up with an idea that we can help spruce up downtown. We can get more people through the door, and it is capped at $100,000 of investment, which from the marketing world, if you're not spending 10% of your funds on marketing, your business isn't growing. And so looking at how much we have available to spend each year for the next 4 years, would be a small investment that has garnered a whole lot of support in a short amount of time. I hope you've all had a chance to review it, as well as how it would actually be implemented. The IP program has a little bit more paperwork, and that is because, we put a lien on the property because, it's a 50-50. And they have, 15 years. This is in essence de minimis. 15 years ago, $7,500 was a lot of money. Nowadays, $7,500, if you've ever hired a contractor, doesn't get you very much. But I wanted to put this program in front of you to get your ideas. We've done our best to make it as fully fleshed as possible, but if there are changes, amendments, especially if you're in favor of it, look at the things that are not allowed. And if you'd like any changes to that, or the things that are allowed that you may not want allowed, this was Jonathan and I working together, putting our best foot forward to bring you something that could have a material impact downtown that we would all see, to show the urban renewal agency's investments every day for the next 25 years.
So if I understand the math correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a current budgeted unspent amount of 3.1 million. And if we were to approve this program to basically goose action downtown with a rapid turnaround incentive for people refreshing, and it were fully spent, we'd have 3 million, 3.0 instead of 3.1.
That is correct, sir.
All right. Second question, and we touched on it, but I just want to make sure we've closed the loop. The program basically puts the onus on a building owner or a business owner to find a contractor, come up with a work plan, and say, we want to do this to our building, and it's up to us to hire a contractor. The city is not getting into that business, or the urban renewal agency is not getting into that contracting business. We don't have favored contractors. It's
none of that. It is in essence the same as the IP program. They have to come in and ask for reimbursement. First, they have to apply, take some pictures, because again, I want to use this as potential marketing, for the agency and everything else, before and after pictures. Then we can show, for posterity, the work that was done, and the changes that are happening downtown.
It's 100% up to $7,500.
100% up to $7,500 for those eligible uses. If you want to continue doing something else, that's on you.
So if somebody comes in and says, I've got a quote for 20 grand for this refresh and it's all eligible, you'd say, that's great. We'll pay the first 7,500.
Correct.
All right. Do other board members, please,
Just confirming, I read this as we reimburse. So it's not at a quote. It's after the work has been completed, correct? Okay, just making sure.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Anderson, Mr. Commissioner Hagee?
Quick question, Jake. So I think I heard you say earlier that we had between X and something like $7 million through the end of the life of the agency. Did I hear you correctly? And
the 3 million is what we currently have budgeted this year. We're continuing to raise more money between now and the end of the agency, and so that changes that number.
Okay, so what would that number be? I'm just thinking
$100,000 less than 4 million, or $100,000 less than 7 million.
Okay, what is the difference between 4 million and 7 million? What is that?
So
is that the total life of the agency versus 1 year?
So what the difference is so what I have is an MI tracker that tracks the projects and the things that we've already. So we've got close to $200,000 sitting out there from projects that we've approved that they haven't done. Think of things like Sigmund's Flowers, right? And then we also have the cost of the First Street project. And so we have a certain amount budgeted for that. The bids came in low, and this next year I'm going to be budgeting for all of it, in case if we hit a single issue, artifact, anything. Like I don't want to use that money yet, but I also want to. So that's part of it that goes into it. If the Salt Commons doesn't go forward, that money goes up.
Gotcha. Okay, I just want to make sure that it was clear. I mean, it's potentially of a lot more than 3 million, and so this is more de minimis than 100,000 to 3 million.
Even smaller fraction.
Yep, exactly. So great. No, I just want to clarify. Thank you.
And to answer your question, if someone comes in and says, I have $25,000, My first question is, why didn't you come in and apply for the incentive program grant already and get 50% of it? Of course you have access to the 7,500, but then I hope you come in and you want to do that other 25,000 or the other things that aren't eligible. And I'd be happy to work on that project with you as well.
The way to dip a toe in the water potentially.
This is marketing. This is
all right.
Do you have any plans to reach out to business owners, specifically business owners that, like in a previous presentation, could be shown to use a facelift?
I believe we've already had one individual from the community who's reached out to a whole bunch of them. And I'm going to be asking all of you to reach out to your friends and neighbors as well. And I'm going to do my best to reach out as well. And we want everybody to hear about it loud and clear from the roofs. And I'm going to also have Jasmine reaching out, and I'm going to have Evan, when he's talking to business owners, reaching out. I've got a master plan.
Usually when you walk into a shop and you're talking to a business owner, you're not talking to the building owner, and it is hard to track them down. And I don't personally know any other building owners downtown. So I'm just curious if the city has a database that they would be able to reach out.
You know, if I had a business licensing program, I would have access to a whole bunch of information that I don't have
Now,
access
you
to.
do have a parcel. You do have access to parcel
I
information.
do have access to parcel information,
There's
but
only
it
like
doesn't give
100
me
some
phone
businesses
numbers.
downtown. There's only so many businesses.
And remember, I also have an economics student who's working on putting together all the businesses and all the property owners, and part of my master plan.
I would say to Ms. Stelter's point, where there's something in hand, I do appreciate an analog bit of marketing. So if there were a flyer or a one pager in hand, I'd be happy to carry some around in my comings and goings and share them with people.
We would be happy to get you something.
Very good. Are there other questions or comments?
I was just going to offer, I might know someone who could help with property owners. So,
You got phone numbers?
no, with property owners.
Of the property owners, you got phone numbers or just addresses?
I think the county can tell you who owns every building.
Yeah, we might be able to help.
You know, it's not a great big secret, but
It's easy for me to get their mailing address.
You can get, I just did with using AI for Hood River, and it gave address, name, and telephone number. So you can do, I'll show you how to do it.
yeah,
I would entertain a motion if somebody were so moved.
I would move to adopt resolution 26-001, establishing the exterior refresh pilot and approving exhibits A and B as presented.
I'll second that.
I think Walt had it. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Let's have a vote. All in favor of adopting resolution 26-001, establishing the exterior refresh pilot, etc. Please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Motion passes. Last long deep breath of the evening. Action item 9C. I hope I fairly characterize this as a housekeeping item in need of minimal amount of detailed commentary, but be that as it may, staff, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. Hi, it's Jonathan, City Attorney, your agency attorney. I think I have, 9 minutes?
You have 9 minutes.
Perfect. That's all I need. This is the
And
agency's. There we go. This is item resolution 26002, updating the agency's local contract review board rules. You adopted the agency's current rules in February of 2023. This update is a modernization and alignment effort. As a public body in Oregon, we're required to have these rules. This governs the way that we contract for goods and services and for public improvements. The agency, frankly, doesn't have a lot of contracting relative to the city, frankly. All of the grants and the grant programs and the micro grant program that was just adopted in the previous resolution, all of those are not subject to Oregon's public contracting code. But whenever the agency is in need of the procurement of services, or the procurement of goods, which is admittedly very rare, or for public improvements like the Tony's site demolition. We're subject to the state's public contracting code, which requires the agency to have these rules, basically giving us quite a bit of flexibility. And so the last time I was before you 3 years ago, and the agency board adopted the 2023 rules, a lot has changed in the state of Oregon and what's been allowed for contracting. And by and large, it's one of the few places in Oregon law that the state is giving local authority some deference. And a list of the changes compared to the 2023 rules are organized on the table that's on page 91 of the packet. There's no change in spending authority, as the agency manager currently has a requirement to get board approval for purchases over 100,000. And I believe for the incentive program, which is again, grants are separate, that number is 50,000. But for the procurement of goods, services, and public improvements, that number is staying at 100,000. There's no change. These are identical rules for the most part, relative to the rules that the city of the Dalles City Council adopted last month. Again, all of the changes are there. By and large, it's heightened flexibility and an understanding by the state of Oregon that what used to be fairly common to buy at $25,000 or less for a public body is that number has grown, and 25,000 doesn't get you as much as it used to. And so historically, that number was 5,000, and that's currently what it is in our current rules. For purchases that are $5,000 or less, we're allowed to pretty much choose whoever the agency would like for most things. One of the proposed changes here is to increase that to what the state now allows, which is up to 25,000. Historically, and what our current rules say is that anything between 25,000 and 100,000 for the most part requires us to go out and solicit bids or quotes. That increase threshold has now been between 25,000 and 250,000, again, in recognition that that $100,000 figure is subject to inflation. And this is the state's attempt at catching up. And still, what was at 100,000 or more required more formal competition for finding the best deal and the best contractors to perform the work, depending on the nature of the work or the provision of the goods. That $100,000 limit has been increased at the state level to now allow that full competition at $250,000. And so I think the chart on page 91 does a decent job at sort of articulating some of the changes. The big picture here is that this rule update would just get the agency in alignment with nearly every other city and county and special district in the state. And we're just trying to maximize every penny of our local dollars, and having the flexibility afforded us by the state of Oregon here, and taking sort of harnessing it by adopting these rules. Frankly, it's a good thing for our community. It's a good thing for local dollars to have as much purchasing power as we possibly can. And so happy to entertain any questions. I'm also happy to pass this over to the chair for soliciting a motion. The motion language is on page 90 of your packet.
Do any board members have questions about updating the contract rules? Is there a board member willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution number 26-002, resolution updating the Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal Agency Local Contract Review Board rules effective February 18th, 2026.
McLaughlin seconds.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Because there's like another 50 pages in the packet, and if there's questions, I definitely want to make sure we have answered them. Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the resolution, or I'm sorry, of the motion to adopt the resolution, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any abstentions? Anyone wish to vote no? Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, City Attorney Kara. Item 10, board member comments or questions. Are there any additional questions of the staff or of each other that anybody wants to raise this evening? Any comments? I see Commissioner Hagee is up nearly there.
I had to get the mic on. I just had a question. We talked about a work session or whatever we called it. And
Yeah.
we talked about early March. Did we have a date for that?
I had suggested making it the next Urban Renewal Board meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
As opposed to adding another
Perfect.
meeting.
No, that's a great idea. All right. Thanks.
I will say 15 seconds of comment. Someone time me. Stepping back for a second, democracy is often about and made by those who show up, and that can be in lots of ways, right? By voting, by volunteering, demonstrating, and by donating an evening of your time to a committee hearing. And I just want to look and rather acknowledge each of you in doing that and appreciate. It can be fun. It can be a little laborious. Sometimes it can be both. And I appreciate you being here and working through these things. And I hope and trust that it makes a positive difference in the prosperity of our downtown. Staff, are there any other comments or project updates for the good of the order?
I just want the chair to note that it's 7:59 and I promise to be done by 8, and I don't think I can cut it much closer. I'll look forward to each one of your responses who haven't responded on the matrix within the next week. And if I don't hear from you in the next 5 days, you can expect a phone call from me.
We don't need to make this painful. I would say if everybody gives one idea for downtown prosperity that Urban Renewal could think about or consider, that would be great.
At least.
If you've got more, that's great, but go for one. All right. With that, our business is concluded. Good evening, everybody.